This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On Air.
Write On, showcasing the work of Otago Southland writers. I'm Beverly Martins. Join me for news and interviews with local writers on the second Wednesday of every month from noon till 1 and replayed the following Sunday at 1 p.m. Write On is brought to you by the Otago Southland branch of the New Zealand Society of Authors and kindly supported by the great team at the University Bookshop.
What do you want to be when you grow up? They say you are what you read, and the University Bookshop can help you be whoever you want to be. Do you want to be an athlete? Then sit down with an inspiring sports biography. Do you fancy yourself as a detective? We have a grisly lineup of murder mysteries waiting just for you. Do you aspire to be the world's greatest chef? We have cookbooks to tantalise your taste buds. Do you want to celebrate your inner child? Play up in our fabulous children's room. The University Bookshop, helping you decide what you want to be when you grow up.
Welcome to our January show. Happy New Year. Are you setting your creative goals or are you rebooting them? Well, later I will be talking to a couple of Dunedin poets who are doing exactly that and helping celebrate the success of others with the launch of the New Zealand Poetry Society's latest anthology right here in Dunedin. But first I want to tell you about a couple of writers' craft books that I stumbled across over the Christmas break. Now, full disclosure. I had thought I would be reading Craig Robertson's biography on Chris Knox, Not Given Lightly, because I'd placed a hold on that before the library shut for the holidays, and I rushed down to collect it before they closed, all excited, because let's face it, during the holiday break, with the weather being the weather in Dunedin, it was definitely good reading weather. So the disclosure I wanted to mention first in context is that I met Chris briefly back in the early 90s when I was head of publicity at TV3. And we were very excited then about screening the avant-garde series Twin Peaks by renowned director David Lynch. And in fact, I do remember organising a launch at the Auckland Art Gallery, complete with Laura Palmer dead mannequins, and serving coffee and cherry pie to the media buyers and news media that came along to that. And it attracted a small but cultish following, of which, of course, Chris, he was all about that kind of thing. He was a huge fan of Twin Peaks, and so much so that he was actually distressed when he was going to be away for 2 weeks and his VCR machine just simply couldn't record 2 episodes in advance. Oh, old school technology, eh? We laugh about it now, but he was so determined to not miss an episode that he contacted TV3 and pleaded with us to see if we could for him to see the episodes he thought he was going to miss. I don't know if he was on tour or out of the country. I can't remember that. But anyway, we obliged him. We gave him 2 tapes, and in return he gave me 2 Max Media cartoons for my troubles. These were raw. They actually had the kind of bits cut out and redone, but they were both related to Twin Peaks, basically saying, it's all going to hell in a handbasket, doom and gloom, but hey, what have we got to look forward to? I know, Twin Peaks. That was the gist of one of them. Anyway, I got them framed. I still have them, and I thank him very much for that generous gift. So there I was, really looking forward to reading Not Given Lightly, but sadly I found that it will probably appeal to superfans only. This is only my opinion, but I just found it too detailed and too dense, literally mentioning at one point what he had for breakfast, and no, it wasn't Vogel's toast, but it was close. So I ploughed through about the very first third of it and skim-read the rest. Now, I've just been talking to Jeff Harford, our breakfast presenter, and he did go through it all because he is a musician and a huge music fan, so big up to him for reading the whole thing. But personally, I found it not a patch on Shane Carter's Dead People I Have Known, which is half as long and twice as good. As I say, that's just my opinion. So, what to do then? I had time on my hands, not a book to read that I could really get into, and I was getting a bit panicky by that stage, so how to fill the void. I went trolling through the Lilliput Library at the Northeast Valley and the South Dunedin Library, and with persistence, two beauties finally fell into my hands. And that's what I want to share with you now, because they're related to writing and the craft of writing, and I would recommend both of them unreservedly. So the first one is called Writers on Writing, and it's based on the popular ABC TV series back in the early 2000s, where top Australian and international authors talk about their writing practice. And I'm not sure, but I wonder if you could, if you're interested, you could look that up online. You might even be able to see, the actual interviews on YouTube, for example. I don't know. What I do know is this book's a keeper and it's staying in my bookshelf from here on in. Because the interviews are straight talking, there's no BS. They are with a variety of writers, some of them very well known, like Faye Weldon, Thomas Keneally, Hilary Mantel, and some less well known, or rather less well known at that stage of their career 20 years ago, and actually less well known to me personally. So it was good to, meet them through their craft, and then obviously then you probably start the ones that really have something pithy to say. You probably end up, then following their works. So let's kick off with Shakespeare. And that's Nicholas Shakespeare, the novelist and biographer who recently wrote a very well-received biography of Ian Fleming. I understand, haven't read it, but I did sort of see that was his latest work. And he sums up the writing life like this. I've written 3 novels and I'm on my 4th, and in each case it's been like a pebble in the shoe. Suddenly somebody says a phrase or a scene and it's there and you see it in total clarity for about a minute. And then you're condemned to 2 or 3 years of trying to retrace and recreate that clarity. Isn't that great? And more sage advice from the incomparable Hilary Mantel. Bless her. She says, writers need a huge measure of arrogance. Nobody else believes in you, so you've got to believe in yourself. You also have to work at some kind of self-containment. Don't go around pathetically showing your work to everyone who comes along, soliciting approval for it, especially not from your friends and family, because what you'll get is not their opinion of your work, but their opinion of you, phrased in a covert form. So I would say, be prepared to serve an apprenticeship to yourself. Work away in patience until you think your work is ready to show. And these are quite in-depth interviews, so I want to read another passage from Hilary's interview, because this is really quite specific advice, but I think it's really it's also incredibly useful. She says, when talking about research, which of course she does a lot of, she's known for that with her historical novels, but sometimes too much research is just too much for the reader. So she says, you have to be very aware that your characters in their world take the exterior world for granted. They're not seeing it every morning. They're not going around thinking, oh, the streets of Paris are filthy today, because they're filthy every day. Your characters notice things when things change. At that point, it's legitimate for you to describe and bring your research in, always supporting your narrative, but never dominating it. So that's Hilary, and then I'm going to wrap up my sharing some kind of passages from this book just to show you how good it is, by a writer that I hadn't heard of called Anne-Marie MacDonald, who was born in Germany but I think lives in Australia now. And she started life as an actor, and this is a strength that she brings to her writing, I think. So this is very specific advice, but also I think hopefully you'll relate to it, because I found it incredibly useful. And also I'm, a playwright myself, so I could see exactly what she's getting at. So this is about kind of small details that can make all the difference to the reader or to the audience member. She says, as an actor, you can speak and you can move and you can show, but you can't tell the audience things except by a series of really awkward asides. I try to apply the same rules when it comes to fiction. If somebody is having a searing emotional experience, I would say that they pick up the fork instead of the spoon. I would try to externalize it and make it into an action. Make it something that someone could observe. You don't have to be inside that person's head to know what they're going through. Why would they pick up a fork when they clearly need a spoon to eat that soup? I find that more moving anyway, because it's not like sending a telegram to the audience. And she's right, the best writers show and the best writers let their readers join the dots. So that is, why you can see that I loved this book, Writers, and will refer to it many times in the future, I'm sure. It's called Writers on Writing. It's published by Penguin back in the early 2000s. So, changing pace slightly, the next thing that fell into my hands, and I found this almost accidentally in the new South Dunedin Library, it's called Word Monkey. And I just devoured this. It's by a writer I hadn't heard of called Christopher Fowler, and he is a British, and I mean very British, writer who has written this rambling, poignant memoir. And the reason it's called Word Monkey is because an old boss, Christopher used to work in advertising, and an old boss of his used to call him a word monkey when he was getting a bit of, if he thought the copywriters were getting a bit ahead of themselves, he would just say, "You're all word monkeys. That's all you are, just word monkeys." And I could relate to that, having been a copywriter myself, and I still think like that because I am forever distilling life situations down into more digestible, understandable, bite-sized chunks. And the best books I read, I think, do that as well. They suddenly make you understand something that you have been pondering on, or they just present something in a new pithy way that just suddenly clicks in your brain. So in this, his last memoir, Fowler goes off on lots of tangents, be warned about that, but that's partly to illustrate a life well lived, but partly it's actually to delay the inevitable. He endured some rigorous cancer treatment during the UK's often farcical lockdowns, so he was left alone to deal with his symptoms, treatments, and actually had to often treat himself at home. And ultimately the words, "the end," are looming for him. But this is no misery memoir. It's reflective, insightful, and at times highly sarcastic, which is absolutely what I loved about it. Spirited till the end. And here's what I mean. I'm just going to read some random passages. I could have picked so many, but there's 3 that I want to read you just to show kind of a bit about the tone and also his advice on the craft of writing. Fowler says that adjectives should be used sparingly, like salt. They're not meant to raise questions, but answer them. Blonde-haired, and that's with an E, tells us a person is female with blonde hair, the adjective having one of the few gender-specific spellings. Whereas vivacious tells us that someone has written the word vivacious. And into this group of non-words, Fowler would place stylish, legendary, lifestyle, and vibrant. And I'm sure there's quite a few other words that you fellow writers could add to. And here's just another aside that he's put in the book about language. It's called Received Pronunciation. He says, I'm bored of writing about illness, so let's discuss more interesting subjects. Did the sentence bother you? ? The of instead of with. I notice the bright young things are using it. Does it matter? The flickering intricacies of the English language would test the patience of a poet. We learn to write in one style and are shocked when we discover there are others. One day I realised that my Turkish friend Evrim was writing me emails in Edwardian English. His touch was so light that at first I didn't notice. He wrote, entirely unconsciously, "Tell me of Barcelona. I'm afraid to visit lest the changes prove too heartbreaking." Fowler found this charming and thinking if we all spoke like that it would make the world a gentler, more thoughtful place. And so he gives it a go with this example. I shall draw myself a bath, the better to exude last night's intake of champagne. And I'm going to finish now reading from this extraordinary memoir with showing his brilliant sarcastic side, and something I could also relate to having worked in PR. But this is his take on the diminishing acts of old-fashioned grace that publishers have dropped as the years have gone by in terms of acknowledging the publication day for one of their authors. And he lists from sort of best to least the sorts of things that used to happen when you published a book and what you could expect from your publishers, and which sadly over the years, as I say, is no longer the case. So I may not have time to read all of it, but I'll just give you some examples. So a yacht. Now, note that only applies to J.K. Rowling and Richard Osman these days, but if you were a hugely successful writer, that could be on the cards when your latest book comes out. Then that drops to a launch party at a glamorous venue attended by obsequious media twerps. Or maybe just a champagne dinner in a fancy restaurant. Or, more low-key, a launch party in a pub. And if they can't run to that, maybe they'll give you lunch in the cafe next door to the publisher's office. Or there might be a buffet hosted by a PR girl who gets the name of the book wrong. Or it might be you might receive a bottle of carefully chosen champagne delivered to your door. Or, in these straitened times, a bottle of Prosecco delivered by Royal Mail, i.e. lost. Or a bottle of wine from the vintner who supplies all publishers' party on the cheap. Or maybe just a box of wine. Or a box of quality chocolates. Or a box of quality street chocolates. Or a box of macaroons originally ordered for a teen social influencer. Or, at the very least, hopefully a congratulatory card. Or maybe just a congratulatory text. or maybe a generated SMS text with your name misspelled. And finally, and perhaps to the relief of all round, absolutely nothing. So that is to remind us that while we take the vocation of writing very seriously, let's remember we're all just word monkeys, aren't we? So I highly recommend that. It was published posthumously by Penguin in 2023, and yes, it's okay to tear up as he gently and beautifully exits stage left at the end of it. So while we reflect on that, here's a fave Kiwi summer track that I want to play while I get ready to welcome in my live guests, Jasmine and Jackson. And this is something that we all want to be able to do at this time of the year in the lovely hot weather. It's the Black Seeds with Cool Me Down. Ooh. Welcome back to Right On with me, your host, Beverly Martins. Now, it's my great pleasure to welcome two successful local poets, Jackson, just one name, Jackson, and a colleague of his, Jasmine Taylor.
Yes.
And we're here to talk about the launch of the 2025? Yeah. Sorry, I was looking like that because it's, we're into 2026, and I was just checking that. The launch of the 2025 New Zealand Poetry Society Anthology, There Are Rabbits Here. And that's containing 140 poems from, I think, like about 10% of the overall submission, so quite the challenge to edit it, chosen from 4 categories in the New Zealand Poetry Society's International Poetry Competition. So that's enough from me. I want to hear about the two of them who are organising the launch here in Dunedin. So let's start with a brief bio. Jackson, can you just tell us about yourself, what compels you to write, and specifically what compels you to write here in Dunedin?
Okay. I'll just note that my pronouns are they, them, just so everyone's aware. What compels me to write? I've written poetry since before I can remember. I can't remember learning to read and write, and I can't remember when I first wrote a poem. The first one I remember specifically is when I was about 8 years old. I wrote a poem about the sounds made by different machines, and my teacher at the time, who was called Miss Packard, liked it so much that she chose it for the class to perform for the parents at the end of the year assembly. So that's my first sort of success as a poet, and I was like 8. And I've just always written. Lines come into my head, and my brain. I mean, I read poetry, obviously, which, makes you want to write it. Also, my father always used to walk around reciting bits of poetry, classic poetry, and there were poetry books in the house when I was growing up. So I think that's part of what it is. Also, I like writing. I mean, I write prose as well, but I like writing poetry because you can do anything. You can, it can be a story or a comment on the world, or just, like a sculpture or a painting.
You came to Dunedin, Jackson, didn't you? Quite sort of circuitous route. How long have you lived here now?
It's 1 year and 2 days.
Right. Mm-hmm. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're obviously enjoying it.
Yeah, because it's a city of literature, and I feel at home here.
Great. That's great. Yeah. And Jasmine, do you want to give us a brief bio and tell us how and why you write in Dunedin, please?
Well, I've always been a fan of language and the written word, and I think I really didn't think I was someone who could write until I started going to the Octagon Collective open mic readings maybe 10 or so years ago, and realised that poetry isn't anything in particular, it's what you create. And since then I've just loved it. I feel like it's the best way to understand the world, and I think that's what I'm always trying to do when I write, is understand things and maybe help people understand me.
So going to the collective sort of gave you a freedom that you didn't...
Yeah, I realised that it's not all about sonnets and posh old professors. It's using words to make art, and that's what I love to do.
And how long have you lived here in Dunedin?
I moved here from Otepoti in 2002, so it's been quite some time.
Yeah, great.
But I moved here for just a few months and then never left. So that's a testament to how great Dunedin is, I think.
It is. And that's often been the situation with the Burns Fellows that I've interviewed, or just over the years. That's kind of how we, I think we sort of started our writer base long before we got the acknowledgement of being a city of literature. It was just people would come down for one reason, realise the housing was affordable, or that it was an easy city to get around or raise families or whatever their other, outside life was. And also the fellowship, I think. I think we're small enough to have a connected community. There aren't fragments or, little different groups.
No, I think you're right.
Yeah. Okay, so that's about you. Let's give us this context of you two deciding to launch this anthology. It's not the only launch, is it? But do you want to talk to that?
So, I volunteered, or actually was asked to do a launch in Dunedin because I'm on the committee of the New Zealand Poetry Society, whose anthology it is that we're launching. And yes, it is also being launched in the other major cities by other members of the committee.
Oh, that's great.
Josiah Morgan, I think, is the launch MC for Christchurch, but I don't think the other locations have been finalised yet.
Right.
Yeah. But people are all, it's just we're a bit quicker with our publicity here because I like to get on with things. And so it's being launched in Wellington and Auckland and Christchurch as well. Yeah. Okay,
so let's talk about the launch here. Do you want to give us the details of when, where, how? We know why. So
so we will be launching the collection on Thursday the 29th of January at 6 p.m. at Moon's Restaurant and Bar, which is Princess Street. Mm-hmm. It's also will include an open mic, so if you feel the need to bring some poems along, I would recommend that. It will also feature Robert Sullivan, our poet laureate.
Lovely to have a local poet laureate again,
I think
isn't
we're
it?
super blessed with that.
He's
and
a wonderful
of course,
reader.
And we'll have Gilly O'Brien reading as well, who was the winner of the Monica Taylor Poetry Prize for 2025.
And I'll just interject there. Gilly was also one of the Burns Poetry Competition winners back in the day. I think it was the same year that I got I don't know, it was highly commended, but it was like a special mention because I went off topic in my poem. But she had a fabulous one about To the Lasses or something, and it was really just kind of laying out Robert Burns' reputation with the ladies and sort of challenging it. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. She's a great poet as well. So they'll be your kind of sort of feature poets, but open mic. It's a free event, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And I think you can buy the anthology on the night. Yep. They have arrived in time because that's always the nervous thing. Yeah,
probably tomorrow.
Yeah,
I should think.
Yeah. So we're talking about sort of 10 days away. It's isn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
So that's on the 29th. So I think what I would like to hear now is for listeners to get a bit of a flavour of the anthology. Maybe even explaining why it's called There Are Rabbits Here. I mean, if it was in Central Otago, you wouldn't need to explain that. But it kind of made me think of Here Be Dragons.
It did.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought. Yeah, and rabbits are seemingly kind of less scary than that, although, larger numbers, so you can still do some damage. So I don't know if you want to take it in turns or how you're going to do it, but this is just, I think, a cross-section or your favourites or...
Yeah, we work together to choose ones that each of us likes to read. So, the title, the editors explain in their little preface that they chose... I mean, it is a phrase from the winning poem, which... I'm not going to read.
Right.
We're not going to read, but it will probably be read at the launch.
Yes, of
People
course.
would like to hear it. But, like it hints at something lurking that you can't necessarily see within they thought it was a good theme for the collection.
Yeah, I think it's
more
brilliant.
than meets the eye. You know.
And it's made for a great cover as well. It's a nice strong blue cover. So I think, Jackson, you're going to kick off and read.
I'll read Julie O'Brien's poem, which is commended. And hopefully if you come to the launch, listeners, you'll be able to hear Julie read it, which will probably be a better experience than this. But anyway, it's called Dead People Don't Want Lasagna. Freezer fulls, fridge fulls, bench top overflowing with sorry for your loss. The only script we've got to say sorry for your loss is in dishes that need giving back, even though nobody at the time asks for that. When the bubbling mud plicks into warm air from deep inside Papa Tuanuku's grieving belly and drops back into hot pools with a gentle hiss, we'll talk about needing a better script than this, with directions in case we get lost when saying sorry for your loss. That's Julie O'Brien on page 19.
Wonderful. Now, I would like to read from page 88.
Talk up a little.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, this one is by Angela Zhao, the primary and intermediate runner-up, who is from Otepoti, Christchurch. This is called Notes. Notes, dancing through the air, feelings and stories woven into tunes. Every single sound has its own meaning. One of a dog happily chasing its tail. One, the story of a moa and its chick. This is music. I just love that one from a child.
Well, yes, and I think it's worth reiterating that there were sort of 4 categories in the poetry competition, wasn't there? There were 2 adult ones for poems and for haiku. Haiku.
Yeah.
See, trying to add an extra syllable. And
no, you mustn't.
I know. Too strict. And the other were from the children.
Yeah, there was junior.
Which is
school age kids.
School age, thank you. Yeah, and the same 2 categories for them. Yeah,
but and the junior open category had a theme, which was music as well. Yeah, to give them a bit of direction. I guess.
Right. So that's the notes. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
Right. Back to you, Jackson,
All right.
for another poem. Thank you.
I will read the second place getter in the adult competition, which is on page 5, and it's by Shirley Eng, and it's called Geese. A wedge of geese shoots over us. One is shuffled back, another flies figurehead. My aunt, once a nun, claimed a dart of birds portends woe, since they are souls absconding, and so the Pope died, despite candles weeping down to stumps and prayers falling back to senders. Faith makes us feel we are making sense of life, though the universe goes in its own direction. On Auntie's deathbed, her drug sleep talk revealed her soul limbering up, ready to lead from the prow of a gang of winged sinners. Shirley Eng.
Lovely stuff.
And we'll have a, just before you read that, Jasmine, just to give a bit of context to this anthology. I mean, it didn't sort of come out of nowhere. There's a long and proud history, isn't there? Do you want to, one of you, elaborate on how long it's been going for? And
oh, you're going to refer to the book?
I'm going to look in the back, because I've only been living in New Zealand since 2021, so, before that I was across the ditch and, quite ignorant of New Zealand literature, really, as one is, particularly if you're in WA. But, previous anthologies, it began in 1987 with editors David Drummond and Harry Ricketts.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and has been published every year since then.
Yeah, something like 38 years. I'm not sure if it's 38 or 39.
I'm not going to try and do
maths.
Not while I'm talking into a microphone.
Yeah.
It's too much.
I
can
go
do
very well
maths,
together.
but not today.
Just ask the Inland Revenue Department about that. Yes, well, since 1987, as you say. So there is a kind of a great canon for this to go into, which is
and
great,
it's
and
also
fabulous. It's still continuing.
Yeah, and it's a good way to showcase up and coming poets as well as well known poets. That's what I love about these type of collections.
Sure,
the names you see pop out. Yeah.
And it's international, this one as well. It's an international competition, 1,500 submissions or something from all over the world as well as New Zealand, which creates a connection between our islands and the rest of the world.
And that's what, poetry does, isn't it? It connects. But also, you're right, it's great to see emerging people coming through, but also the changing tastes of poetry over that time too. I think, what is and isn't acceptable, what people do and don't write about. I mean, essentially it's always the human condition, but I guess how we perceive and also what we are allowed to say now that we perhaps didn't feel able to
and vice
express.
versa.
Yes, true. All right, Jasmine.
Okay, well, I
to...
would like to read a poem here from Bruce Rankin of Makitu. This is called Destination. It's on page 55. Fence wires shine like lightning strikes along tensioned, frozen steel. No moon ever burned as brightly on a highway travelled by none except me. A hare trapped in headlights, sitting bolt upright, erect, defiant, and an owl, wide-eyed at his observation post. I pass, leave the wildlife to its own purposes. Open landscape is the home of such beings. A quick glance in the mirror reveals nothing. If I'd chanced a long look back, I would have seen the owl glide into anonymity, not quick, but wise, and the hare lope slowly along its shadow, content, unafraid. But too late, I've refocused on the centre line stretched out before me on an empty road. Bruce Rankin.
Do you know what I love about poetry? Just listen to that. It slows the world down.
Yes.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like a forced mindfulness almost.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a great description.
One of the
Jasmine.
reasons I like to go to poetry readings, because it's like a meditation, listening and focusing on the words. Creates a different.
The only thing I'd say about poetry readings sometimes is that you do need the white space in between.
Absolutely.
You can't have a poem following a poem following a poem because it then just, to me personally, gets a bit blurred. So it's really nice if you can set up the kind of atmosphere where you give everyone their moment, but there are just those wee pauses in between.
At Octagon Collective, we do try and do that. Because both of us sometimes MC, and that's part of the MC's job. Also, I think poets should let people clap between the poems, because that creates a bit like lets people.
It's a beat.
A beat, exactly. In narrative terms. All right, I'm going to read.
All right, we'll make this the final poem.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm going to read a couple of haiku, so it won't take long.
Yeah, no, brilliant.
Yeah,
great idea.
There's a long section of haiku in here.
Good, that'll give us a great flavour.
So this one was highly commended in the haiku by Sandra Simpson. Young bracken, every war memorial draped in bunting. I'll read it again because you should with haiku. Young bracken, every war memorial draped in bunting.
I love the image that instantly pops into your head from haiku. It's beautiful.
May I read another haiku?
Absolutely.
So, there are two on page 111 that I want to read. Once again, I'll read them twice. This is by Sue Courtney. Through a crack in the curtain, suddenly the moon. Through a crack in the curtain, suddenly the moon. And by Kanjini Devi, a raven's caw on the creaking branch, sickle moon. A raven's caw on the creaking branch, sickle moon.
Strong images. Excellent. Well, thank you. So let's just do a quick recap then. So Jasmine and Jackson are organising the local Otepoti launch of this fabulous new anthology, which is called There Are Rabbits Here, and that's spelled Here. I'll just not rabbits in here. And it will be at Moons in Princess Street, kicking off at 6 p.m. on Thursday the 29th of January. It's free, everybody's welcome, and you can buy the books on the night.
I'll just add that the doors open at 5:30, so we recommend you come early and make yourself comfortable.
Well, grab a seat, grab a drink.
Some of the Moon's amazing menu.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you both for coming in, and best of luck for the launch. I'm sure it'll be well attended.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
What do you want to be when you grow up? They say you are what you read, and the University Bookshop can help you be whoever you want to be. Do you want to be an athlete? Then sit down with an inspiring sports biography. Do you fancy yourself as a detective? We have a grisly lineup of murder mysteries waiting just for you. Do you aspire to be the world's greatest chef? We have cookbooks to tantalise your taste buds. Do you want to celebrate your inner child? Play up in our fabulous children's room. The University Bookshop, helping you decide what you want to be when you grow up.
And that is pretty much our show. So thank you very much to our guests, the ones you just heard, poets Jackson and Jasmine Taylor, and to the University Bookshop, as usual, for stocking such great books, and to Penguin publishers in general for publishing such great books as in the ones that I was talking about earlier in the show. So next month, I'm very much looking forward to welcoming this year's Burns Fellow, Rachel O'Neill, to the city and to the microphone, where we'll be having an in-depth chat about what her creative goals are for the year. So till then, ka kite anō, and catch you next time.
This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On the Air.